Welcome. Hello. Thanks for tuning into Town Meeting TV's coverage of town meeting elections. My name is Megan O'Rourke. I'm the host of your program. This program is a part of a series of programs in advance of Town Meeting Day on Tuesday, March 4th, 2025. These forums are made possible through generous underwriting partners. You can find all our forums at cctv.org/TMD 2025 or on the Town Meeting TV YouTube channel at youtube.com/townmeetingtv. There are also auto-generated captions available if you're watching this live. You can subscribe to stay tuned to other local democracy programs this election season. On tonight's program, we're going to hear from the Central District candidate. This is a unopposed seat. Milo Grant is the incumbent seeking re-election. And if you have a question for our candidate, you can call at 802-862-3966. Thanks. Welcome, Milo. Thanks for joining us. We do have a prepared list of questions. And again, if you're watching, we want to hear from you. So the first question is just, what do you love about Burlington and why do you want to serve again as a city councilor?
Sure. Thank you very much. I think Burlington's a really beautiful place to live. I think Vermont is a really beautiful place to live. I know that we've been through it, especially during and since the pandemic. I do believe that we can get back to the vitality that we once had. It's going to take a lot of work and people working together as well. I am running for re-election because I feel like I'm just getting warmed up. The learning curve to be a city councilor is a long one. And I am concerned about the fact when we look at what happened last year, where we had 5 seats turnover, we're going to have at least 2 seats turnover this year. That's a lot of new people that are entering and starting over. Even now, we're running into issues where newer counselors don't always have the correct information. We had a counselor who published something saying that a progressive had never hasn't brought forth a public safety resolution in 4 years. Well, that's actually not true. So that was very alarming because I was part of a bipartisan resolution that I initiated. So my work was being erased. So things like that I'm concerned about. And I think that Mayor Emma Mulvaney-Stanek needs support, needs strong support. She won a decisive election with a coalition of people from all different parties, all throughout the city. And she's not being given full support from the council. And that alarms me a lot.
So this is going to be your second term.
This will be my second term. Yes.
And these terms are 3-year terms.
No, they're only 2-year terms,
That's right.
Unfortunately. Yeah.
These are the district seats.
Mm-hmm.
So as a councilor, you're going to be asked to vote on the city's budget.
Yes.
And maybe just give us a little bit of perspective on the budget process and what you bring to the city budget. You just talked about experience. You've been through this process now.
Yes, and we are really, as most people know, we inherited a very difficult situation where there was a $14 million budget gap. It started out as $8-9 million, and then it kept increasing. That was pretty astounding. And as someone who was on the council for the first year, not like, how did this happen, right? I think the availability of ARPA funds, which were provided during COVID, covered up a lot of issues in the city. And now we don't have those funds anymore. So I am trying to support the mayor as much as possible with regards to working on right-sizing government. She is reviewing all the departments top to bottom. That's been one of her top priorities, and I fully support her in that. And really taking a look at the budget, because we're already looking at another budget gap, not as large as 14 million, but we have to be really following everything and really calling on our departments to take a look at what they're doing, how they're using funds, fully accounting for the funds that they're using. It's going to be a really important part of the process. So everything that we talk about that involves money is talked about in great detail. I always recommend to people the Board of Finance meeting is not a meeting that the average resident watches. And
We
we're
do
watching
record
right
those.
now.
Yep.
Please watch those meetings. They're very, very important. If you don't have time to watch them when they're live, you can watch them on Town Meeting TV at a time that's more convenient for you. You can also simply read the presentations and the documentation that is attached with the meetings. That can be very, very important because that's where a lot of major decisions are made about what happens with how money is spent in the city. And even though I don't serve on that committee, I try to make it a point to be watching those meetings on a consistent basis. But I think that
So that's a way of staying informed.
it's a way of staying informed. You know, I always say that the issue with Burlington Telecom, that didn't come out of nowhere. That the council at the time had to have known that extra funds were going on there. That had to have been approved. It's probably in a consent agenda somewhere. The consent agenda is an agenda that's not talked about, just kind of voted in whole. It's like got all these things and you vote to approve it en masse. The average person doesn't read consent agendas. There's some interesting stuff in consent agendas. And occasionally you might hear a request to pull something out of a consent agenda and put it in the deliberative agenda where to be discussed. But I think that it's really important for Burlingtonians to really increase their civic engagement. It is really low. We are living in some very troubling times. Those times are reflected in our city. And we need to be more involved and instead of avoiding the news, we really need to be paying attention to what's going on. There's a lot of misinformation, disinformation, and that includes in our city government.
Great. A way that voters are going to be asked to be involved in a local level is the school budget. That's coming up as the council doesn't weigh in on the school budget. That's decided by the school board and then put before the voters. It's $1.35 million. It's actually a $10 million decrease from last year's budget.
Yes.
Do you support this budget and why or why not?
I absolutely support it. First of all, they continue in a similar fashion that the way the city is looking at its finances, our district has continued to really scrub every line item. And the fact that they were able to find a decrease this year is fantastic. I think part of it is also related to, if you haven't driven by and taken a look at the high school, the new high school it's looking like a new high school. I hadn't been that way in a while, and I was just really amazed to see how this building is coming together. We all know, or we all should know, that we've had a great deal of stress with the cost of our school budget as related to having to replace a sick school. So I always support the school budgets. I always encourage everyone to support the school budgets because the schools are important to our future.
Great.
You know, what are we without our schools? What are we without a high school? It's going to be really important.
There's a series of bond items on the ballot and charter changes.
Yes.
Can you give us a little rundown of those and what's your position on these items?
Sure. Hopefully I'll remember all of them
I've brought them up here
you
to
did,
look at.
There's a basic ordinance change about just saying that with regards to when we do redistricting in our city, why does anybody else in the state of Vermont have to approve that? You know, Rutland wouldn't want us approving their redistricting. So
take it out of Montpelier.
Yeah, we don't need that. I think the most important things that are on there are the bonds. The water and lake bond is extremely important. Clean water is important. We don't want to F around and find out. Is this going to increase our water bills? Yes. But DPW and the water department, they've been doing a really great job to scale back as much as they can and push certain things back. But there are things that need to be done now. It is regretful, but mayors of all political parties kicked the can when it came to maintenance. We have a lot of deferred maintenance, and the proverbial chickens are coming home to roost. there are examples all over this country of failed water infrastructure. We do not want it to be us. We take for granted being able to flush our toilets, turn on water that we can bathe in, that we can cook with. We have to start to make some of these repairs. I did one of the tours, and it was very, very eye-opening. You can obviously see some wear and tear, and it's amazing to see how wastewater comes in and what it looks like when it comes in, and all the different mechanisms we have to remove solids, and how it keeps going through and walking through the process to finally get to an area where it comes out clear. It costs money. And so we are, I really encourage people to vote for that. We know in the long run it's going to increase our bills, but we haven't had those increases because we haven't done that work. And now we have to take care of that. The general obligation bond is very, very important, also known as the GO bond. We're taking a look again at more infrastructure. Fleet, I obsess over fleet. You know, money to replace fire engines, ambulances, other city vehicles. We know sidewalks or roads, our portion of a match that we have, the city of Burlington has to contribute for the Winooski Bridge and other types of things like that. All of this has been discussed frequently, not only at city council meetings. There have been presentations at the Neighborhood Planning Assembly, the MPAs. So if you haven't seen a presentation, and if you don't have time to watch a presentation, there are PowerPoints that you can go through to get the information that you need about these bonds. The mayor has gone at great strides to have this be as transparent as possible. And it is, to me, I feel very, very informed about this. And I know that our residents can be fully informed, but they have to be willing to look at the information.
And the firearms, is that?
We know that a lot of gun incidents start in and around bars. We need this particular change to occur. What it will enable is it will enable bars owners to have something that they can refer to so that consistently everyone can be kind of standing on the same plane. You can't come in here with this, well, I can go someplace else with it. No, you can't come into a bar with a gun, period, anywhere in Burlington.
And that'll need to go to the legislature
That'll need to go to the legislature as well. So we have to support that, and then it has to go down to the legislature. Even in, we are a state that has extremely loose gun laws, but we know that guns in bars is a problem. We know this. We have the data for it.
So I want to ask you about the top priorities. We have a bunch of questions here, but what are your top priorities as city councilor? Sure, tell us about the committees you sit on and what you hope to bring forth.
Certainly, I sit on the RIB committee. I also sit on the licensing committee, liquor control board.
RIB is racial equity inclusion.
Yes, racial equity, inclusion, and belonging. There is some rebuilding going on on that team because of turnover again. I have a lot of faith in the new director, but she's going to need some time. But I think we can continue to have good things come out of that department. The city hasn't been committed, and the previous mayor wasn't committed. Say one thing, not follow up. It was very regretful. And issues of racism in our city are very difficult for people. They don't want to. I have conversations with people who themselves I would not consider to be racist, but they sometimes excuse racist behavior from other people because they don't want to believe that about them. And that's a problem. That's a problem. People are having a lot of issues with being honest about certain things. It really strikes me now because I miss Zariah, I miss Ali. I'm now the only Black city councilor in a city that is really diversifying very quickly. the Central District, the most racially diverse district in the city, in the state, next to areas in Winooski. And so representation is important, and listening to voices that are telling you, hey, this is a problem. You know, what someone did here is a problem. We need you not to get defensive. We need you to address it. I'm on the chair of the Public Safety Committee meeting. I really encourage people to watch these meetings. I feel I've done a good job of making them educational, of introducing residents to the people that are part of our community safety response system. Do you know what the CARES team does? Do you know what the CAPE team does? Do you know what a CSO does? Do you know what a CSO is, a CSL? Reviewing all of that and reviewing the data for all the incidents that they touch. I also continue to be very, very concerned that we have not had a strategic recruitment plan and strategy for retention and recruitment.
Of new
I'm sorry, I'm saying things twice.
No,
a strategic recruitment and retention plan is what I'm meaning to say. And this has been an issue for years. The 2018, the department hired 12 officers, but 18 left.
And you started on the police commission, is that right?
I started on the police commission, so I've been looking at this, and I was on the special committee to review policing policies before then. I've been looking at all these issues with the police department now for almost 6 years. Yeah. And people get very upset by some of the things I say because they don't want to believe it. We now have the internal survey from the police union. It is very telling, and I encourage people to read it. You need to read it. You need to listen to the comments out of the officers' mouths. They're very, very telling. You know, are there comments about not feeling that there's community support? Yes. Are there comments about feeling there's not support from city councilors? Yes. There are comments, though, about not having support from internal leadership. There are comments that the chiefs can't pretend to work together. There are comments where officers are saying there's no retention plan. There are comments where an officer said, one of the comments was, it doesn't seem to be that recruiting is an emergency. Yeah. So this is all very telling, and it's been known. It's like we have the evidence. People don't want to believe certain things. We do not need to do any more research. We don't need any task force. We know what the problems are. We know what needs to be done. Right now, we're counting down the hours till we can have a new police chief, and that will help.
Questions. Yeah, what's your priority? What are you looking for in a new police chief?
I'm looking for someone who is going to hit the ground running, is going to have deep and honest conversations with the officers that continue to work with the department, that is going to have deep and honest conversations with members of the public, with city councilors, who is going to be a partner with the mayor. The mayor has been studying this, has been just gathering so much information. Mayor Mulvaney Stanek thinks out the box in a way that we have not seen, and is very, very important for us to move forward. She knows that the most important relationship that any mayor can have is with their police chief. And that has not been her experience. And so when we have a new interim in, we're going to need interims possibly for the deputy positions. I'm not entirely sure how that's going to work. There's going to be a lot of moving pieces. But I think we're going to be going through a rough period, but I think we are going to end up better for it. Yeah. I believe what we have here is a challenge. We have a challenge. But there are people who will rise to a challenge, and we need to recruit those people. We need to let them know why this is a great place to work. This is a great place to be a police officer. We've built up a really diverse community response system. That's bringing attention to our city. And I believe there'll be people who will step up to that challenge.
We only have about a minute left, and there's I know, it goes really quickly.
What happened?
Because it goes really quickly. We only have about 20 minutes to talk, sure. But you have shared with us a lot, and I appreciate that. Is there anything more that you really want to focus on as, you're not facing an opponent, but you are out there talking to folks. And what are people most concerned about?
Yeah, thank you for that. No, where people are still concerned, most in my district, about community safety issues and quality of life issues. We know we have a severe drug crisis. That, to me, continues to be the number one issue in the city. I had a city councilor say a couple of months ago that, maybe we could make graffiti number one, and I just about exploded. There is no one in the Central District who believes that graffiti is the number one issue. Is graffiti an issue? Yes, but drug crisis and assisting the unhoused people. We have hundreds of unhoused people living in Burlington because of the motel program, just dumping them on the streets throughout all of Vermont. And the overall lack of low-cost affordable housing. So those are the 1 and 2. And then still graffiti's a little bit further down on the list for me. Graffiti happens when you have blight, when we have more of these development projects occurring, when we have finally the construction starting on the new, at the old Y, on Memorial Auditorium. Those are places where they've been abandoned, and graffiti thrives in places like that.
We have a call. Should we stay on the air for a little bit longer to take a call?
I can do that. I'm happy to take a call.
Okay? Is that okay with our directors? Okay, well, let's do it. I'm going to answer this call. And where are we? Hello. Hello, are you there?
Yes, can I be heard?
You can.
Okay, great. I thought it's Black History Month and she is the only Black woman surviving, and I wanted to ask her a quick question. Hi, Milo. You probably have seen me before. It's your Miss Black Vermont, but you know me as just your queen sister who's helping out. But anyways, my question is this. Do you think that Black politicians have a duty to be unapologetically loyal to Black interests, or do you think that's an unfair expectation?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, when I take a look at what's important to me, especially equity in policing, which is something I discuss a lot, I think that that's not only important to Black people who live in Burlington, I think that's important to all people who live in Burlington. Issues around equity in policing got us where we are with the lack of community trust. And that created an environment where officers felt they couldn't work here anymore, and they left en masse, especially during the protests that occurred in 2020 and through 21 and actually are continuing now. So do I try to make sure that everyone is being treated fairly in our city? I do try my best. Regretfully, this is not a full-time job. I have to keep a full-time job in order to keep a roof over my head. What I get paid barely covers my takeout because I can no longer cook dinners for myself because I work. I go to, people know these council meetings, 5 hours, 6 hours, 7 hours, committee meetings talking to constituents about things. It's a lot. It needs to be, every ward should have 2 counselors at least. I believe that there is sufficient work to do that. But I do try to address bias when I see it, but I do see myself as, if I'm trying to help someone in particular who's Black, there's a benefit to the community as a whole.
Good. Well, thank you, Milo, for joining us. And if folks want to learn more about you or get in touch, how do they do that? MiloGrant.com is the website.
Great. Has a lot of videos. We'll put this conversation up too, where I'm talking about different things. Also, you can submit a question to me through that website. Constituent questions can be emailed to megrant@burlingtonvt.gov, or you can email me at milogrant@gmail if it has anything to do with campaigning.
Okay, well, thanks for joining us, and hopefully we'll see you here on election night as you're likely to be elected, and we'll talk with you as we do our election results show on March 4th. And don't forget to vote on or before March 4th. I believe ballots will be ready by the middle of February. Thanks for watching.